The traditional classroom environment doesn't suit everyone. Students that don't fit this pace of learning begin to lose confidence. The problem is, the current learning model has holes in it. Luckily, mypeexam.org is here to fill these holes. With myPExam, students are given the chance to master each subject at a pace that suits them. With 1,500 video tutorials and thousands of automated questions available constantly, students can progress at their own individual pace. And because every interaction is tracked within the site, teachers can review students' progress and gain access to razor-sharp data. Teachers will have more time to engage with small groups and be better informed of where their time and support is needed. With myPExam, teachers can leave the traditional model behind and become facilitators, coaches and inspirers. There's a reason we have over 40,000 registered students. To learn more, visit our website today.
Hello there one and all, this is James, mypeexam.org, and it's my responsibility within this session to give you a bit of an introduction about what this movement is all about. So we're going to be talking about myPExam, specifically mypeexam.org. Now there's a couple of things that I would like you to get straight away before we even start this process and I start introducing you to some of the core features of what we do. First of all, please realise that this is what we would loosely describe as a self-paced learning platform. And what we mean by that is that we strongly believe that all learners, in fact potentially all learning, should be enabled at least potentially to be a self-paced experience. So we really want to sort of get the idea that the classroom can be and should be everywhere, whenever the student, whenever the learner needs it to be. And the other point I'd like to make for you is that the site is based on a principle of mastery, and I'm going to demo some of those concepts for you in a few moments' time. But whether you are a student or whether you are working with students as a teacher or member of a team, we expect that the objective for all learners is mastery. In other words, we utterly reject the ideas of working towards a target grade, that some kind of testing protocol can bring about a prediction of someone's learning potential. We utterly reject that concept, and we say to all learners, via teachers often, that all learners are capable of building mastery topic by topic by topic by topic, assuming they have the opportunity to access that material at a pace that suits them. And that brings us back to the self-pace. So look, as I said, my name's James. I'm going to be introducing you to the site and its features. I'll click over to the site right now and we'll get cracking with exactly that. So we're now on a student profile on the website itself. So you can see here, I'm logged in as a student, Anna. And she's a good kid. She's well known to me, my elder daughter, and she uses the site a little bit sometimes, and we use it for these test purposes. And basically, look, she's logged in. This is her profile page. And a couple of things I'd like to address for you straight away. Look, she's building up awards and badges. She's building up points. We've tried to gamify the site a little bit, and she's got some recent activity and some messages that she has made to her teacher. Now, what I really want to show you straight away is the My Courses page. Now, My Courses here, it's showing how much of the course she's actually taken part in, mastered, and what she's struggling on. And she can access her course by clicking here on the course title. And we can see here that she's got all of this course, in this case AQA GCSE P 2016, listed for her. And really the next, as you see here, for each of these first 6 components, she's got this M by the course, meaning she's mastered that thing. Remember, I referred to the concept of mastery previously. But effectively, you know, she might go on to this next lesson. In this case, it's on muscles. And of course, you can see here, look, that I've already here actually watched a big chunk, 80% of this tutorial. Anna, I should say, has watched this. But for example, I can play that again.
Hello there.
And for example, if I play to a part in the video you see here,
so you can understand of each one. Okay, so the first one.
If I play to a part that she hasn't previously watched, you'll see this progress bar actually start shifting and filling in these white spaces. And the total time that she's watched of 82%, 83% goes up and up and up and up. I'm just going to pause the video there. The key thing to realise from the student perspective is that once the student has watched a minimum of 80% of a tutorial tracked exactly in fact millisecond by millisecond here, they have a choice to make. If they're confident that they have fulfilled the learning that's required in this tutorial, they can hit yes, and that will now record this tutorial as mastered. Whereas if they're unsure, they're a bit stuck, they're a bit confused, they can hit no. And down here it says, if you're struggling to grasp this topic, watch it again, ask your teacher for help, or send your teacher a question. So they could come down here straight away and send a message to their teacher, such as, I am unsure of, and then whatever that happens to be. And they can send that message off to their teacher. So let's just assume that the student has mastered this content. They must get to 80% of this bar completed before they can hit yes. And of course now it's time. And by the way, I do want to show you a couple of features of the videos. You can of course maximize these videos that will go beyond our screen size. But the video is going to teach us the content that we need for each individual concept. So the teaching is there, self-paced for the learner. Now, taking the quiz is the next stage. So let's just have a little look at that. I'm now going to start this quiz. Notice it's saying to me I must complete 6 consecutive correct answers. In other words, 6 perfect answers in a row. So in this question, which muscle is contracting to cause this performer to flex her trunk during the action of a sit-up? So I know that that is the abdominal muscle, the abdominal muscles, the abdominals. And I've got it marked correct. We could put rectus abdominis, the abdominals. We probably wouldn't have got that correct for the abs, for example. It has to be correct terminology. Which muscle is acting as the prime mover in the upwards phase of the press up? Well, we know that that is the tricep. And again, I have to be exact with my answer. I must have it specific. If I put bicep there, or if I do a very horrible spelling of triceps, some spellings will allow little errors, but if I got it really wrong, then that would be wrong. Which muscle causes us to abduct and adduct our shoulder joint? So adduction of the shoulder joint, that is taking it outward, that is the that's taking it inward, I should say, that is going to be there. That is the latissimus dorsi. And abduction, taking the shoulder up and outwards away from the midline, the deltoid. So we check. Again, it's going to let us know if we're correct. This one, which muscle attaches the heel via the Achilles tendon and when it contracts causes us to point our toes downwards? Well, we know this is our gastrocnemius. Noting and realizing that errors will be marked incorrectly and we must get our 6 answers in a row right. So here we've got pairs. The bicep goes with the tricep, the quadriceps with the hamstrings, the deltoid with the latissimus dorsi. And we go on to our final question, I believe here. The triceps contract, that causes elbow extension, and the bicep contract, that causes elbow flexion. And we've now got our 6 perfect answers in a row. And this is kind of interesting. We're going to click on this green button in a moment. But first of all, I can view all of my questions and the answer I've put. If I had errors in there especially, it'd be useful for me to go back into my notes, correct my notes, and make sure I understand the things I need to understand. I can show the leaderboard. People who have completed this quiz recently will go into this leaderboard, the most recent at the top. And finally, if I need to, I can go back and restart that quiz again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here to continue, and it's going to take me on to the next lesson. Now then, I just want to show you something before we could go on to features of joints here, of course, but I just want to go to view all. Now you'll have noticed, look, that now my tutorial for muscles, which I've watched 80% of minimum and agreed that I've understood, and my muscles quiz, which I got 6 perfect answers in a row, are now mastered. If I hadn't completed those requirements, I wouldn't get that M. Just one more very quick thing. Again, if I start this 6-minute 48 video here, you'll see the progress bar building up from 0 here. If I drag the bar forward, you'll see it builds up from here. In other words, we measure very, very specifically, have you, the student, or if you're the teacher, has your student actually taken the proportion of the video which is likely to lead to very high quality learning. Last point from me, it's very important that the student makes notes from these experiences. I'm going to say that again, note taking is a key and essential skill of an effective student, and we encourage the student and of course the teacher guiding the student on how to do that. All right, I'm just going to change the screen and change the account over so we are a teacher. Just be on pause just for a moment. So here we are now on the teacher view. So I'm logged in as James Anthony Sims, bit of a dodgy middle name, but never mind. And I've got the group that Anna's in here, look, family data testing group. So it's just our family group and it's just a bit of an example, but I can click it. Imagine this is your GCSE group 1 or your ASP group 2 or whatever it happens to be. I can click to go. In fact, let me go into messages first of all and show you this. I can go on to pending answer messages. And we saw a moment ago that Anna wrote a message saying, I am unsure of. And what we can do here is that we can go and answer that message and it will go back to Anna underneath that relevant video. And I can write whatever I want to write on here. I can approve the question, which means that that it can be published to Anna's profile. And I think it's a valuable question and an answer, so I'm going to post it to all the students in my group, and I'm also going to give Anna some extra points because it's a good quality question, and I submit my response that way. So that's how we do that. And I'm going to go back to the My Courses page. And what we're going to do, I'm going to go down to this family testing group and we're going to have a little look at the stats that are provided for the teachers. So what have we got here? Well, first of all, realise that in my group, I've got 4 students. Okay, so we've seen Anna doing a little bit of work a moment ago, and we've got 3 other students as well. And if we scroll across, we're looking for those dark blue mastered on the content that we know from what we saw of Anna's profile before that she has mastered. Of course, we get it exactly that. We get it right up to muscles. And you even saw me at the start of the last one. I just took a small amount of time on the joint features tutorial, and that one now marks as in progress. It means I've started it, but I've not mastered it or not reported that I'm struggling. But everything else is dark blue and mastered along there. Okay. Now, if we've got an orange block, for example, it means that the student is struggling. So on the tutorials, that means that the student has clicked no, I'm unsure of this content. Or on the quizzes, it means they've had 3 or more goes at it without mastering, and we report that automatically. If I click on Anna's data here, look, this is the data on the videos. Look, we know she did another 2 minutes on the muscles. We saw her do that, and she did 1 minute 11 seconds of the joint features quiz, and of course that is within the time frame. This is set as the last 7 days. If I look at quizzes, for example, we know she's done the muscles quiz. It's been mastered and it took her 2 minutes 10 seconds, and that's been in the last 7 days. So that's really useful data for me. Another thing you might notice, look, if I've set a homework of doing the tutorial on muscles, for example, I've got Anna's mastered it, James has mastered it, and Martha's mastered it, but Georgina is only in progress. In other words, she has not completed her homework, and I would know that in advance before the lesson started. A little bit on the effort report. Now, we see on the effort report here, we've got the last 7 days that are actually reported here. So this 7 days, 17th to the 24th. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make this a little bit further. Let's go from the 1st of November to the 24th of November. And I'm going to filter that information. And in fact, I'm going to go back even further. Let me go back to the 1st of October that way, and we should get some more data. You can see that Anna is kind of the one I tend to use. Now, the red bar, in this case, 2 hours, 5 minutes and 48 seconds, this is time that the student has spent in school hours. In other words, between 9 and 4 during the weekdays. But in this case, Anna's also done 10 minutes and 35 seconds in this time frame as home study, so I can get a feeling for that. I can also see that we've got James as our least productive student over this time span. And as we saw a moment ago, if we want to be specific and say, okay, when in the last week, who's been studying and how much time have they put into it? And we specifically see that only Anna's been busy. And again, I can click on Anna here and I can see the time that she's put in. I can see the time that she's put in during that period. Okay, so we can actually have a look at that on there. So again, very useful for you to be able to do that. And finally, on the awards report, we can see here how the students are building up points and badges from the 6 learning behaviours on the site. Now, this is kind of sometimes a little bit less tangible for teachers. But if you think that you've got a student who's performing really well, but actually their effort and their perseverance scores are low, that would actually suggest they're finding things a bit too easy. They need more challenge. Likewise, if you've got a student who's mastered relatively little, is struggling on a lot of topics, but has got huge effort and perseverance scores, then it suggests they're going through the right behaviours, and we can discuss that with them. So that's what our reports do for us, and hopefully they're going to be pretty useful for you. But I also want to go back to My Courses to show you another feature of teacher profiles. So let's choose one of these teacher courses, in this case questioning technique. I'm going to go into this course here, And you can see here that there's a load of content here that we can actually go into and study just because, let me just go back a second, just because we've got some teacher content in here. So this tutorial is all about the necessary resources you might need in your classroom to achieve a really sharp and effective questioning methodology. So again,
Welcome to the presentation. They are not left alone.
This tutorial is about teaching skills.
Techniques. I'm not just saying you shove me where on that wall.
In other words, what we're saying here is that the teachers themselves can upskill through the use of the website, and that use of the website is not just about PE content, but is about developing skills and knowledge of classroom performance and practice. The last thing I'd like to show you about the teacher profile, and kind of in some ways it's the boring bit, but I just want to show you this page here. This is still logged in as James. James is also a lead teacher here, and a couple of things that James can do. He can actually reset passwords for his students. So if a student claims that they've lost a password, for example, James can input a password here, and he can not only tell the student, in this case the other James, but he can also actually email this. So this is automatically emailed to the student themselves. Okay, so we can put that in there, and that is now going to be sent to James as his password reset, student profile updated look. So that now goes to the student. The student can now log in again, and of course in this case, if the student's near you, you can quickly show them, look, here's your password, get on with it. Next thing, on the admin side here, you see that we're in a position where we can create groups. Okay, so I'm going to call this new test group. Okay, so I'm going to create that group. And now once that group is created, I can go back to my admin profile look. Here's my new test group, and I can edit the details of this group. And what I mean by editing is I can select the course the group is going to be in. I can select the teacher that's going to run the group, and I can select, so let's just say I've got 2 students in this group. I can select the 2 students who are in that group, and that group is now published, and those students have got access to that course. So that, in fact, let me show you it. That actually becomes officially a different group. So you see now we've got family test group, we've got test group 7, and what I've just put in here, new test group, and in there will be only the 2 students that I've put in. So it's a useful process for you. You know, imagine you've got 100 students in your school to actually structure your groups and assign students to courses as they would need them. Okay, so look, I'm going to switch back onto the canvas just for a moment, because I kind of want to get to the nitty-gritty of why I think some of these principles are really important, and perhaps the impact they can have on your classroom. So just switch over the screen and I'll be straight back to you. So in this last part of the session, really what I want to start to address with you is the idea of the impact that this kind of service might have on your classroom. And I'm going to introduce to you sort of 1, 2, 3 kind of basic protocols that you might want to consider implementing with this strategy in place. So the first 2, number 1 and number 2, homework and flipped classroom, or homework strategy and flipped classroom, they kind of suggest that the classroom stays roughly as it would be in what we might call the average or the typical classroom. And that is to say that there's kind of a teacher at the front, and there are rows of student, or horseshoes of student, or consoles of student, or whatever students, or whatever you've got set up. And the teacher is still in control and releasing information in batches. Okay, so the teacher is still releasing information, setting tasks, timing tasks, moving groups on. All those things are still in that kind of pedagogic straitjacket that is pretty typical in the, I would say, in my own personal experience, the vast majority of classrooms. Okay, so don't know if it's in your classroom, but in most classrooms. So the homework strategy works like this. You know, you can still have this exact classroom structure, or whatever your format of it is, still having your starter, your presentation, your worksheets, past period questions, and plenary type stock lesson. And then the mypeexam.org becomes part of the homework strategy, or indeed becomes the homework strategy. So, you know, for example, a student does a topic in your classroom on training, or on, I don't know, or on energy systems, and then they go home and they go through the work on mypeexam.org to kind of consolidate and support that work, and to make notes and prepare them as they come in for the next lesson. And of course, if you think about the kind of the tracking aspects of what I've shown you in this session with regards to the website, you can then sort of pretty easily see, well, okay, I will know in advance if and how well my students did their homework. I will know in advance who didn't do their homework. Even the day before, I can speak to that person in the corridor or in my class that hasn't yet done the homework and say, come on, 24 hours to go, let's get it done. All those things become possible, and you also then are able to intervene based on what the tracking shows you. So that's a fairly kind of go-to methodology, and I suggest it's one that many of us may well go to first of all. The flipped classroom is also a homework strategy in our phase 2, and the flipped classroom will also tend to work in this type of format, except that the activities that go on these desks are likely to change. Why? Well, what we're saying here is that in the flipped classroom, the lecture, in other words, the video tutorial that I've provided, the lecture is the homework. So the lecture and the quiz is the homework. Well, that's like this. No, we're saying before, let me try and be cool, before. We're saying before the lesson. So instead of homework, we're really getting into a concept of perhaps what have traditionally would have been called prep. Okay, so students are preparing their knowledge at home before they come into the lesson on energy systems or training or whatever it happens to be. And I would say the majority of people we work with on the website will then present the classroom in that way. The classroom then becomes more of a doing place. So imagine potentially something like 100% of time available for question and answer in the classroom. You know, that could potentially be one way of doing it. The students take the lectures at home, you track it, you know that they've done it, you know that they've mastered it. You could also check their notes, of course. And then the lesson time is about question answer, or worksheets, or past paper questions, or textbook work, or games, or activities, or practical, or whatever you decided it might be. And the third stage, and by the way, this is how we run our classrooms today, is what we'd call a blended learning environment. Some people call it humanistic, some people call it pedagogical classroom, some people call it a self-paced classroom. But effectively, at this point, we scrap this notion of the kind of the teacher doing one thing, the students doing another, and the teacher in this model is what we might loosely call the lecturer, or let's call the teacher the broker of knowledge. You know, they're in charge of when the knowledge is kind of released in batches to the students. But in this blended learning model, we have a completely different experience. And I'm not suggesting you can do this straight away. It takes a lot of thought. It's quite resource heavy, at least at the start point, but you might be able to project work it. Or, you know, you might be able to do like a little pilot study. The first thing I want you to know is that there's 4 areas to the classroom. 1, 2, this is in our version of it, by the way. You may well come up with a different version, 3 and 4. So we've got 4 areas in the classroom. There are no partitions in this classroom. It's just different structures in different places. There's no lines on the floor, no barriers. So it's just like this. So the first area of the classroom is what we refer to as the terminals part of the classroom. So terminals effectively means computers or devices of some kind. So of course students are going to go to this part of the classroom and they're going to do things like tutorials. So straight away we're saying, right, the videos and the quizzes, tutorials, quizzes, it could be other online work, research, for example. Tutorials and quizzes now become part of the classroom experience. So imagine a batch of students around here, let's say 6 or 7 of them around here, taking their lecture from some kind of device, which I'm drawing really horribly. So we've got those students doing that. Over here, let me just do it in a slightly different color. Over here we have what we call our quiet study area. So the way I'd encourage you to think about this is any paper-based resource imaginable in the classroom is achieved in these spaces. So we set it out like this. The students go here for quiet study, so they might do textbook research, paper-based worksheets, past paper questions, peer marking, repeative answering, self-marking, loads of different paper-based examples. You can probably got hundreds that I'm not mentioning. But those things are available all the time whenever the students need to. So first of all, realise that when the students enter the classroom, they could choose to go there, they could choose to go there. But we have a third area of the classroom. It's what we call our play area. So it's not as sort of daft as it sounds. Here the students would go to this part of the classroom to play things like games, cards, Q&A, flash revision, you know, all kinds of stuff that this would be resourced with here. So imagine a situation, maybe this student has taken a tutorial and a quiz, they've gone and done their task sheet, and they come over here to take on someone else at a game of Gauntlet, for example, on that same key information. So students can again come in and make their way there. Now, the other point we just briefly make about this classroom is it's very data centric. Okay, it's very data centric. Now, you've already seen some of the data that's coming out of the website that you can use as the teacher, but don't forget that in this model here, the teacher is no longer delivering from the front. So they've got all their time to go and interact with students. They've also got the data coming back from worksheets, quizzes, games. And of course, what can happen is you might find that this student here is struggling. And they're struggling on, I don't know, topic 7. They're struggling on topic 7. So the last area of the classroom is that the teacher has this area here. I don't know how I've drawn the teacher. And they're going to get this student to come across and they're going to do some work with them. What are they going to do it on? On topic 7. So this is maybe where you've got your whiteboard. The teacher does small group delivery. Perhaps if the teacher is explaining topic 7, they might announce to the group, look, I'm going over this topic. If you'd like to join us, come and join in. And the students effectively make their way around this classroom. Now, my very last point about this, because I don't want to sort of go on too much about this, if you do go for this blended learning classroom, even if it's just for a lesson or two, or you do it as an intervention group or a drop-in group after school, the students need one resource, and that is a series of targets. Okay, so you might, for example, say, right, students, you've got 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, you've got to master all of those targets. But the order, the rhythm, the timing that you do them is completely controlled by you. And then, of course, it's the teacher's job to coach and to facilitate that learning. And what you'll find here is you will know almost immediately if somebody's going to miss those targets. You will have the time, you will have the ability to sense what's going on around you because you're not lecturing. You can see people interact. You've got the data coming through from the website. You've got the data coming through from here. You've got the information coming through from here. You're getting feedback from this person on topic 7, and you will know in advance whether students have or have not actually achieved those things. So we're basically saying 3 immediate possibilities: homework strategy, flipped classroom, and blended learning classroom. And I think you would probably agree with me that this last one is highly exciting. However, you also potentially have to go through number 1 and number 2 before you're confident or really knowledgeable enough to try that one out en masse. You might do it as a project, but if you introduce it as your core teaching framework, just be advised you've got a journey to go on. Probably I certainly did when I worked towards it. It took me quite a long time before I got to that position. So just be aware of that. You might want to say pilot study, test it out. So look, that's all from me. This is who we are. I'm just going to quickly finish off with a little bit on our pricing structures. And yeah, so let's go and have a little look at the pricing page. A couple of minutes and we will be done. Thanks so much. So we're on the last part of this little demo, and we're going to have a little look at pricing. Okay, so I'm going to sort of assume we're teachers and heads of department out there. So I'm going to kind of go to this teacher page, and I'm going to show you how the pricing works on the site and what you can expect to be set back, as it were, for using the website. So let's just go through the different ways. So first of all, if you've got smaller groups of students, like small class at year 10 or year 11, or you've got a small A-level class, for example, we'd encourage you to think about this groups structure. So the way this works basically is if you've got between 2 and 25 learners, it's going to be £15 per student to enroll onto the website. Okay, so £15 for 12 months access for each of those individual students. And if you've got more than 25 learners, that comes down to £12.50. Okay, now as you can see up here, we've got a sale on at the moment. This is as we're in November. We've got this sale in place, and it's 15% off, so you can figure that out. If you're working at Key Stage 5, it works like this. It's also £12.50 per learner per component of the A-level course. Okay, so there's 3 components per AS, A2 or GCE, so bear that in mind that it's £12.50. Or if you've got more learners, it's £10 per component. So again, if you've got 1 student, or you'd say you've got 5 students doing the whole of the A2 course, for example, then that would be £30 per student because they've got 3 A2 modules each. Now then, the teacher tracking that I've shown you, that is £50 per teacher, except that if your account goes over 350, the teachers immediately become free. Okay, so you won't pay for teachers over that amount. So a good example of that would be if you had 35 components of A-level because you had 13 students doing 3 courses each, 3 components each I should say, your teachers are going to be free. And the same with the teacher support library, that is £50 per teacher, or it's free when you're over £350, okay? So just bear that in mind. What a lot of our schools do is they use this department structure, and this works particularly well if you've got larger cohorts, you want to enroll students at year 10, year 11, perhaps at Key Stage 5 as well, year 12 and 13. Then the way we do this is £650 per year. Currently it's discounted by 15%, which makes it $550-ish. I think it's 55250 actually, if I remember rightly. And this means that you could, for the 12 months account, you can upload any number of students, groups, teachers, the full tracking and the full teacher support, and it's a ceilinged fee. So on that basis, if you have got more students, you may well find that this model works out better for you. And that is, of course, one set fee. It's all you pay for the entire year. You won't have to pay if you add a student or add a teacher or change a student. It will all be encompassed in that account type. So 2 main options. You've got the groups package and you've got that departments package. So look, I'm going to wish you well. All of the information about how to contact us, how to make an inquiry, how to make a purchase is just down in the description. Have a little look at that. We'll be delighted to hear from you and to hear what you're looking to do with the site. I'd also really enjoy engaging with teachers and talking about that blended learning classroom. If you're interested in that conversation, do please get in touch, because it's certainly something that interests us, and we're really excited about provoking change towards that model. And if that's something that you think could be a part of your future teaching journey, then we encourage you to get in touch and to discuss that with us. So I'll sign off at this point. I wish you the very, very best, and I thank you once again for your attention and taking part in this session. Look after yourselves. Take care.